Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into an exquisitely brief, but honestly universally relatable observation about the human mind. I mean, you know that feeling, right? You get a sudden, massive burst of motivation to completely change your life overnight, only to, well, completely lose interest just a short time later. If that sounds familiar, you are absolutely not alone. Today, we're going to explore the exact mechanics behind that feeling by analyzing a pretty fascinating piece of source material. It's a short text, but let me tell you, it packs a massive psychological punch.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the trap of newness.
We have all felt it. That intoxicating rush when you decide, hey, I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. every day to meditate. Or maybe I'll master conversational French by summer. The enthusiasm is totally real, the planning is meticulous, and your energy is just sky high. But then, a shadow kind of falls over the whole thing. The author actually captures this universal human failing in one incredibly pointed question. Why do things that start psychologically get boring after a few days? Ouch! It stings a little, doesn't it? We start these really ambitious projects with the utmost sincerity on a Sunday evening, and by Wednesday afternoon, we're literally looking for excuses to abandon them entirely. Why? Just sit with that word for a second. Why? Think about your own abandoned hobbies. You know, that acoustic guitar currently functioning as a very expensive coat rack in the corner of your bedroom, or the crisp, totally unread stack of motivational books sitting right there on your nightstand. What exactly happens inside our minds that causes this sudden, precipitous drop-off in engagement? What is the actual mechanism behind this rapid loss of interest?
Section 2, defining psychological novelty. To really answer that why, we need to dissect the author's exact terminology. The author uses a highly specific word right at the forefront, transience, the state of lasting only for a short time. By using this word, the text is highlighting the inherent, built-in brevity of these mental sparks. They are ephemeral. Their very nature is temporary. They're just visitors in our minds, definitely not permanent residents. The author isn't looking at this drop-off as some rare anomaly either. The word transient suggests these bursts of motivation are simply not designed to last forever.
So, the crucial point here is understanding exactly what the author means when they specify novelty as psychological. It's defined as a newness or interest that originates purely in the mind. Now, I want you to contrast this with things that are tangible or situational. If you buy a new car, or if you physically pack your boxes and move to a new city, that's a physical, external novelty. Your environment literally forces you to engage with it. But a psychological novelty, well, that relies entirely on your internal willpower, your imagination, and your mind's ability to sustain its own hype. It is entirely self-generated, which means it is entirely vulnerable to our own internal fluctuations.
Moving right along, Section 3, the few days timeline.
Having established those definitions, we can shift our focus to a highly specific, incredibly rapid time frame. The source zeroes in on this exact phrase, after a few days. We aren't talking about losing interest over a lifetime, a decade, or even a year here. Consider why the source points to a drop-off in a matter of days. It strongly implies that the motivational fuel provided purely by the mind burns incredibly hot, but also incredibly fast. The sheer intensity of starting something new in your head is so demanding that it literally exhausts its own supply of novelty in under a week. Let's move to and see how this builds. Basically, this creates a conceptual timeline that perfectly maps out the source text's chronological progression. Check it out. Day 1, the endeavor starts psychologically. It's pure potential, completely unburdened by reality. Days 2 and 3, a few days pass. The initial mental high starts requiring actual physical effort. You know, the alarm goes off early or that blank page just stares back at you. And then, by day 4 and beyond, the shiny mental wrapper has fallen off and the whole thing just gets boring.
Section 4.
The inevitability of boredom. And this brilliantly illustrates our final, unavoidable destination, boredom. It is the exact moment the magic wears off. There is this stark, sudden dichotomy between the initial psychological hype and the downright boring reality. When a pursuit exists only in our heads, when it starts psychologically, it's perfect. We imagine being totally fluent in that language or having that flawlessly organized garage. But the moment it transitions from a psychological novelty into a physical reality, it takes work. It requires friction. Our brain, completely deprived of that easy imaginative reward, rapidly interprets that friction as boring. That massive contrast is exactly what makes the boredom feel so heavy. We can actually summarize this relentless pattern as a 3-step cycle. 1, a psychological spark, that brilliant, unprompted idea. 2, a brief span of days where reality sets in. 3,
the onset of boredom. Every single time you've lost interest in a brand new plan, it likely followed this exact, predictable rhythm. It's a fundamental loop, a recurring rhythm of human cognition that the author has elegantly distilled down into just a single question. Section 5. Transience as a feature. But hold on, what if we've been looking at this all wrong the entire time? We usually view abandoning a project as a failure of willpower, but suggesting that psychological novelty is inherently transient might actually be implying that this quick drop-off is a fundamental feature of human nature rather than a bug. So is the rapid fade inevitable? Perhaps our minds are just beautifully designed to constantly generate new ideas, casting this massive creative net to test out different versions of the future. But only a very, very select few of those ideas are actually meant to survive the brutal transition from a psychological spark to a sustained physical routine. In this view, the boredom isn't a failure at all. It's just a filtering mechanism. It clears out the fleeting ideas to make room for the ones that truly matter. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to turn the source's exact question back onto you. Why do your psychological starts get boring? What exactly happens in your specific mindset when that initial spark fades away? Do you try to fight the boredom, or do you just let the transience take its course? Let that why linger in your mind a bit as you reflect on your own transient novelties. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating concept, and definitely keep questioning the mechanics of your own mind.